Welcome to the Robcast. This is a show about Oakville, the people that live, work, and do business here. We're really excited today to have our guest Scott Hurren on. Let's get into it.
It's the Robcast podcast. He's with you for the next hour or 20 minutes. Who knows? Let's see how it goes. Here he is. It's Rob Raham.
Welcome to the Robcast. We're sitting here with Scott Hurren, who is the owner-operator of OTBX, who specializes in real estate photography and videography. Scott, thanks so much for being here. Let's get at it. So, I can speak from my own experience with Scott in my real estate career. You know, about 5 years ago, I was having 3 different people manage 3 different sections when it came to my listings, and someone said, you should probably talk to Scott. He's got this great new business. And I came to you, and I remember the first thing you said is, what can we do to make this easier for you, Rob? Totally. And it changed my whole business moving forward. So I'm glad you're here today to kind of share your story. And let's talk about it. Like, how did you come to be and start this OTBX Air?
Yeah, totally. It's a great question. So I'm not a drone pilot, not a photographer or videographer, but I saw a huge disconnect in the industry. There were agents like you contacting different people for different services all of the time. They needed someone for video, someone for photo, someone for drone, someone for floor plans.
Exactly.
So conceptually, I was like, well, why don't we just try to, create a solution where an agent can go to one person and make all of that happen. And I recognized that there was a tremendous opportunity, not only locally here in Oakville, but also nationally, that this problem existed. If you wanted to find a photographer in Halifax for your brand, where are you going? You're probably going to work with John, the photographer. So what if there was a company that had brought together some of the best in industry and made it really simple to get solutions all across the country? And I just love the scalability of our business. You know, if we're photographing a living room in Toronto or Texas, it's the exact same science, if you will.
I think what's interesting about what you've done is you've created this base that's allowing you across the board to provide continuity to your clients, right? And so you're able to package this group, and it's kind of the back end. So tell me more about the back end of it. It's like one thing to have photographers and drones, but it's the back end kind of tech solutions that you've come up with. Sure,
yeah, and it's not easy. I mean, there's a lot of baton passing if you think about it, from sourcing a photographer, vetting that photographer, making sure that there's a background check that's done, then training them, standardizing how we want our services to roll out. Then we take the content back from them that's got to go through an editing process. That happens through the night, overseas, back to client. There's a lot of communication points, so we've needed to really integrate a lot of software to be able to power us for scale. And I'm super excited about where the software is going. I think the introduction of AI is going to completely change the world. I think every industry is impacted. We're already seeing it, and it just makes scaling so much easier. I think the accessibility is so much easier.
Yeah.
And our business went through a shift. I mean, when we started, we had an office on Cornwall down in Oakville, and it was great. And then we went into COVID, and COVID changed the game there too. Certainly. As you know, right?
Yeah, of course.
People started, especially for agents, you couldn't go through a house, you couldn't bring people through. We needed the visuals mattered more than ever.
Yep.
And we made a decision. We're going home. Everybody's going to work from home. Everyone's going to be remote. And we expanded into 3 different markets, one of them in the US during COVID, without ever touching boots on the ground.
Yeah.
And so that to me kind of said, well, wait a second, this business can be done fully virtual.
Here. Yeah.
And I think now, it's going to be really hard to get people back into an office. It's a different world. So when you combine AI, working virtual, working remote, having a product that's fully digital, yet also providing a solution that's very localized, that is part of every community that we service, it's got some challenges.
Yeah. And is Oakville kind of your central hub? I know you've expanded. We'll get a little bit more into that.
Yeah.
Like, I know, because we have a situation where, I didn't like that cut, or I want something different here. And we're able to call. We have a customer service rep that we can speak to, usually the same person.
Yeah.
I mean, so I guess my question is the staffing. Are you finding that to be a challenge in Oakville, or maintaining staff in this industry?
Yeah. Maintaining staff has not been a challenge, I would say. And one of the best things about living, working in Oakville is that you've got access to a great pool of talent.
Right.
COVID did change that, because if you're working fully virtual, you can hire anywhere across the country. And so, but we've got a great team here. I love the accessibility. When we did have an office, we had people that were traveling, commuting into Oakville. They, take the train. They could easily get here, which was good. So I think it's Oakville's an awesome community, as you know, to raise kids, to participate in. We've got a great chamber of commerce here. We were honored to be recognized as one of the business of the year in 2019. That was a huge award for us. So they do a really good job here of really fostering new business, I find, in Oakville. So it's a fabulous place to own and operate a business for sure, even if it's virtual.
Yeah. When did you think, like, I've got something here that I can kind of package and take it to other places? Like, I know, like, are you almost Canada wide now? Or
we are, yeah. So we have 115 photographers across the country. All of them are, vetted and trained, and they're under contract to us, so they can do their own freelance work. But we also, through our contracts, we can essentially add communities to our map of service areas. And technology's changed that, right? That ability to be able for someone to say, "Hey, I've got a property at 123, Sesame Street, and just outside of Halifax." For our system to be able to figure out, okay, who do we have that operates there? What's their schedule? What services do we provide? What are the price points we provide in real time? In that time zone, that's tricky. So
I guess that was going to be one of my questions. There's certainly, like, the prices across Canada fluctuate in residential, like they do, and obviously there's an expectation for certainly sellers in Oakville. Not maybe for every agent, but for certainly some of the top ones that go, we need to present this house a certain way, and we're not going to spare any expense.
Yeah.
Now maybe the person out in Nova Scotia or New Brunswick is not, the house price doesn't match up, the commissions don't match up. Is it more scalable for you?
Yeah, there's definitely.
You had to find that kind of equation of what people are willing to pay for the service.
Sure, I think what's happening for us though is that the realtors ultimately are our client, so they are choosing to use us as part of their pitch to the seller.
Separate themselves.
Sure. So if you imagine, if there's, how many agents are there to a seller typically?
4 or 5 coming in.
4 or 5.
Yeah.
So you can imagine those 4 or 5 sitting around a table physically, all presenting, hey, when I list your home, this is what I'm going to do. Yeah. So our service becomes a bolt-on for those agents, and there's more pressure for agents to be doing more. The days of just shooting basic photography is done. As you know, you've led the way for years, Rob. Like, you've been doing photo, video, drone, twilight, all of the things that are necessary that a lot of agents still are kind of catching up.
Right.
One of the things that we actually see is that the agents who do the most to market a listing actually do the most work with us. Which is interesting. There's a pattern there. It's like, if you want to win more listings, market them better.
Right.
Because if you market them better, you're going to pick up more because you can sell more at the table.
It's always been my thing is to be able to market these properties, and people are going to see them, and people say, I want my house to look like that. My house deserves that.
Totally. And your mindset's different. Your mindset, if you look at it as like, when I'm marketing a listing, I am really investing in my own brand, in the work that I put out to help me get the next one. I think a lot of agents still struggle with that. They look at it as an expense line. How do I keep my expenses down and make more money on this transaction?
Spend to make it, right?
Yeah. You've got to. And I think that sets everyone apart. But you're right. In certain markets, we definitely see, agents are willing to spend way more money on luxury properties than they are on a trailer home or a lease.
So has part of this been like opening up nationally, which is obviously a great success story? Like, are you going out, meeting the photographers? Has this been you involved in a lot of travel from your end?
It has. It's been a lot of travel. Another plug for Oakville there, obviously, just access to the airport.
Yeah, exactly. We take it for granted. Like, I have friends in London and stuff. Like, they got to drive 2 hours just to get to the airport, right?
I don't think there's anything worse than being gone on a 4-hour flight and then having to do a 2-hour drive at the end.
A lot of people just end up staying in motels, right?
Totally,
for the night.
Totally, depending how the timing works. So, it's been a lot of travel, and then we're trying to create layers of scalability in the business. So we've created what we call resource managers. So photographers who have been with us a long time, they become a resource manager. They're actually looking after an area. So they're helping the team grow. They're helping with training. And then we're trying to find ways that we can standardize a lot. I think we had a big shift 2 years ago in the business where, when I first started, the concept was create the McDonald's of real estate photography. So if you called us and requested a photographer, that photographer should be able to deliver the exact same Big Mac as the next one.
Right.
And what we realized a couple of years ago is that our business is fundamentally not like a McDonald's. It's not what the agent wants.
There's too much human impact on it.
And what the agent actually wants is much more like a hair salon. So it's the idea, you obviously look at your hair, you go to the high end, right? But a lot of people will go to the same person. They'll wait for John the barber, because that's their guy.
I can tell you, with all you've got, this huge lineup of photographers, and nothing against any of them, but I have two that I like.
Sure.
Those are my go-tos, Tyler, right? And I can't think of the other guy's name right now.
That's okay.
That's all right. I'll come back to it. But no, I mean, there's no doubt that that's a personal touch that I feel comfortable
and
with.
we recognize that. So what we did is we flipped the model to say, well, we don't want to just send anybody.
Yeah.
We want to send the person that you want to work with, and we want to be able to serve up their schedule in real time, so you can see, okay, I'll wait till the next. But you could literally be with the client and say, let me see when my photographer's available tomorrow at 2:00. You can book on the spot.
Right.
Done. And so that's been game changing in terms of just how we've looked at the scalability. We're really trying to shift that mindset of because everybody's different. There is a nuance, even though the photo is taken at the same height and going through the same editing process.
Yeah.
There's a rapport, a trust level there that's important.
There's no doubt, and I'm not going to speak for myself, but certainly some people in the industry want things right now, right away, right? It's, they've had things planned out, they've had their photo shoot planned out, and it rains. Well, stop everything.
Sure.
It's so some of the challenges you must face of your booking systems, right?
Yeah.
And again, you're talking about specific photographers and that certain agents have connect with one, but their availability might not be there because everyone's connecting with them.
Sure.
So has that been a challenge you've kind of tried to deal with?
Not so much. I mean, it's a good problem to have when photographers are in such demand that their schedules are busy. But I think we still live in a world where a lot of agents will go to book their photographer and they'll be told, you know what, I can't get there for 4 or 5 days in peak market. You can't wait 4 or 5 days.
And that's,
you got to go.
Yeah, we understand that. Well, we should.
Sure. So the model, that we've created has really been driven around that idea of we've got you. If that photographer is sick, goes on vacation, goes down with COVID, something happens, then they can't. We've got a backup for you.
Right.
That backup is, maybe somebody you haven't worked with, but they're meeting the standard of what we'd expect to have delivered. So it's, I think, it's interesting. Even you brought up the weather, rain, we saw, just did a listing recently with an umbrella. It's brilliant. But we want to be more, and this is where we're going. We're actually rolling it out in the next couple of weeks as a model where you'll be able to say, hey, it's Rob. I would like to book a listing at 123 address. And I'm thinking next Wednesday. And our system's going to actually do a weather lookup on that property.
Is that
and it's
going
to tell you it's all AI, but the power is there now, right? Where it can actually look at the property. You can say, hey, this property that you've got, Rob, it's south facing, so it's going to get sun in the morning, but it's supposed to rain in the morning, or the winds are so high we're not going to be able to drone that day. Do you want to move it to the afternoon? Do you want to
probably favorable percentage days, right? This is a better day. Yeah.
So that way, what it does is it reduces, rescheduling time, last minute. So we've got a lot of, having done this for years now, we see a lot of predictability in terms of what's
that's
coming.
just another thing for the agent to go back to the client and go, here, look, this is our software we're using.
Right.
We know that this day's not going to work because of this, and this is what this told us, right? So we can go back to the clients wow, these guys are off the charts, right?
You got it. Yeah.
So, Scott, as we know, real estate agents can be a fickle bunch. Yeah. And, in terms of the scale of your business, everyone in the eye of beholder, everyone thinks things should be a certain way. What are the challenges you're facing in that realm, especially within Oakville and the agents that are working here?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, you've got thousands of agents who all have different expectations of how we shoot listings, how we portray their brand. And so it's a challenge. Our goal has been to try to find a way that we can satisfy, obviously 100% will never ever happen.
Never going to happen.
We can get to, we can get to 95% of the people who take our product, the photos we deliver of that listing or the video we produce, where they're like, this is great, I'm good to go. Then we've done our job.
Yeah.
But, quality is so subjective to the beholder. Some people will look at it and be like, I want to use that clip, or I don't like that, or I want, this color's slightly off. And so there's a lot of nuances that actually go into real estate listing photo and video work when you think about it. Sometimes they can be like, hey, these floors are just a little bit whiter than that, or I want, So,
okay.
But we see it all. We have agents, and it's interesting. I think we've learned a lot about the attitudes of people who are successful, teams, they're organized. They tend to book us, shoot, and go, and they don't get hung up, on a ton of small minutiae.
That's your job.
That's right.
We're doing our job.
But they also approach their business that way, where it's nothing's going to cause, it's like we always have this discussion, is the red tea towel, everyone has this, the red tea towel that sits on the oven door.
Yeah.
Does it need to come off during the photo shoot or not?
Right.
So if we go there and the house has been staged, Do we remove that red tea towel? Half the agents will tell us, why didn't you remove the red tea towel?
Right.
And the other half of the agents will be like,
whatever.
It's totally fine. We're going to sell the
Why are we
house
talking about it? Why are we
whether the
talking
red
about that?
towel's
Yeah.
there or not. But I do find the level of agent, the success of the agent will dictate quite often how they respond. Newer agents or agents who live in kind of high stress.
Yeah,
The
only a
seller's
couple deals a
stressful,
year,
right? It's like they're panicking about the littlest thing. We have to do this, this dance with them to be like, look, you're only spending a few $100s here to market a listing.
Yeah.
We've done a lot of work. We've got to be fair and reasonable. We'll do whatever we can, but it's a pain point. It's not easy.
I learned a long time ago, especially as you're growing your business, that you can't manage everything. You can't micromanage everything. And then it's a hard jump when you're doing a single agent to a team and trying to do this. But at some point in your career, you have to release the responsibility and let the expert do it and trust them to do it. And once you can do that, man.
But that's the idea of hiring. Like if you hire someone and they can do something 80% of the way that you would do it, it's worth the hire.
Exactly.
They're never going to be able to do it 100% the way you would do it.
Yeah.
But if you can get 80% out of them, you're doing great.
I want to segue into, I know I get asked this question a lot, like what's the craziest thing you've kind of come across as an agent or through your trials and tribulations? I mean, there's TV shows about these things, but in the OTBX world, has there been a couple cases, and I don't want to get too specific, but there are a couple of cases where you kind of came into a situation and thought, or the photographer called you and said, hey.
No, we've had all sorts of things. I mean, we've had photographers locked in a house, can't get out, door locks from the inside, they're trapped. We've had people who are in the bed, we've gone to shoot the property and they're in the bed and eating craft dinner out of a pot, and you've seen it all. So we find properties where they're tenanted and the tenant is still there.
Yeah,
they don't care and the tenant doesn't want you to be there.
Yeah.
Animals are always a challenge, letting the cat out, that sort of thing. There's a lot that can happen. And then it's every day is different. That's the other thing too. So yes, we're shooting the living room's consistent. It's a living room, but they're always different. Different lighting conditions, different furniture types, some cluttered, some empty, some, there's a lot to take into account.
You mentioned earlier, sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned earlier like the impact of AI. Is there something that's coming down the pipeline that you can see? You mentioned the kind of the ability of weather to be able to predict and make sure that we have the right days to shoot, or at least give a better probability of day to shoot.
Yeah.
Is there something coming down the pipeline that you've seen that can really change the industry in real estate photography?
Oh, there's a lot.
And videography?
There's a lot. Like I hope that people who are viewing this podcast today are really paying attention to what's coming when it comes to AI, because every industry is going to be impacted by this.
Right.
We're already seeing it in the way that we edit content. Editing starting to change. It was early in 2023 that we started to see the introduction of a chat GPT,
right,
which was a very simple kind of text-based, I'll type something in and it'll text me something back. Now AI is moving to a place where it can see, it can hear, it can speak. So if you imagine all of those elements, if it can see, we have the ability for AI to look at our photos and go, I want you to see if you notice any reflections in mirrors of our photographers, tripod legs in a stove door glass.
Wow,
These are things that we do manually now, but the AI is there. It can start doing that, which means we can edit faster, we can deliver content faster. Editing videos becomes simpler. We talked about the introduction of real avatars. You can create an actual avatar of you on camera.
Yeah.
And go text to speech. But for us, the biggest impacts I think are going to be on our customer service and scalability, our ability to reach out to new markets, to expand the business, to provide 24/7 customer service. You want to come on at 2 a.m. and chat with us about booking a package and you got questions. We've got an AI tool that can answer that.
Right.
It understands your neighborhood. It knows where you are.
Yeah.
It can give suggestions to you, and it can do it in 20 different languages.
Scott, you're a charismatic guy. You're running a company. You have obviously got a successful culture. Tell us about the culture of OTBX and how that's helped to kind of maintain the positions and the people that you have working there.
Yeah, the culture is predominantly young. So, we're dealing with a lot of young creatives.
Yeah.
We know that photographers and videographers specifically have a passion for the craft. They have a passion for shooting. They don't like the business part of that so
Right.
much. So that's where it's a nice blend. We can bring them sort of the business back end to manage scheduling and client inquiries and billing and all of the stuff that they hate, and let them really step into the craft. But even on the team administratively is predominantly young. We have a large female staff, which is great. When we were originally working out of our Cornwall office in Oakville, we had a really unique kind of camaraderie there, of fun environment. It was great to be together. Now we're fully virtual, and I think it's a challenge for us in many ways. We miss that piece, that getting together, but we live on Google Meets. We're on the screen every day, and I would not be able to get the team that we have today back to an office, even if I tried.
That was going to be my next question is do you foresee a way that you could get back? Is there something that you feel, I mean, Google Meets is great, but it's still not the same as getting in the morning and the high five. We'd
have to force the hand of our current team, and a lot of them they're comfortable at home. Yeah. They don't want to drive. They've made, they've got kids. They've kind of got this balance now that just works. It's interesting because when I started the business, I originally, it was like, can I do this from under a palm tree? It's interesting that we're here with a palm tree, but that was the concept. It's like, could this business be run from a palm tree? And I actually think there's a lot today that still can. Here we are, fully virtual. Yep. We've got 115 photographers across Canada. We're expanding more into the U.S., continuing to develop new products. There is a missing piece, though, of getting that team together. Yet it's going to be very challenging because we have been hiring people that are not local anymore because we're fully virtual. Yeah. We can put a resume out and say, we're looking for the best candidate. And if it's between working at OTBX or working for a bank that requires you to come downtown Toronto 3 times a week, 2 times a week, we have an upper hand there where you can say, no, we're fully virtual. So it's a challenge. We need that get together for sure, because it is different online. But I think, one of the things I love about Oakville is the talent pool in the world that we are in, which is heavily in media. You can get a lot of media people, they gravitate to the city. Yeah. They're in Toronto, right? They're the production people, they tend to be in the city because there's just typically more work there. Right. So getting them to come to Oakville is totally possible. It's close enough that you can pull from the city to get good talent who have production experience, for sure. Yeah. So you mentioned about the opportunity of drawing talent in from Toronto. As anyone in Oakville can see, the hundreds of cranes along Dundas right now building high density, tall condo buildings. Where are all these people working? Are they going to be working in their little cubicles in their condos? Are they going to be commuting into Toronto? Your thoughts on that and the kind of the development plans of North Oakville there? Yeah, I think, obviously we've got a lot of people immigrating to Canada. So the numbers are staggering. Over 1 million people in 11 months, I think it was. So they've got to go somewhere, which is great. So there's a huge influx there. But obviously the town of Oakville is a great draw in general. It's a great place to live and work. We've got, great hospitals, great industry, close to Toronto, close to Mississauga. Tons of head offices there. But I think the working landscape is changing. People are able to work from home more than ever. There's so many digital services that can be provided. I think of video editing in our world, for example. Sure. If you're proficient in video editing, you can really work from anywhere. Right. So now it becomes a balance of, if I can work from anywhere, should I work in Oakville or do I work in Vancouver in the mountains? As long as you can get good internet, you're connected. Move 200 kilometers anywhere outside the GTA. Then you can do it totally. Yeah. And I think we're seeing a lot of that. You see a lot of people that are working. They're building side businesses on Etsy. They're creating their own Shopify, doing things from home. So the working landscape, unless you have a brick and mortar store, you have a craft, you're a mechanic or a doctor where you need to physically go. So many jobs now are becoming remote. So I think there's a lot of people actually working from those condos. I think of the street that I'm on, and I look out the window on a Tuesday afternoon, and almost every car is in the driveway. And the people are walking their dogs and walking all over the place. They're home. They're home. Doing? Let me ask you this. It sounds like OTBX is doing a lot of exciting things. If there's something in the horizon that you're looking forward to, what would that be in the next year? Definitely the introduction of AI. Okay. AI is going to change our business and the business of so many others. I think we've looked at it as a big light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to helping us with scale.
Okay.
So some of the scale challenges we've had, and I've mentioned, just as that example, if you call in and say, hey, I'm an agent and I'm just outside of Abbotsford, BC. Do you guys service this little municipality? You're probably talking to someone from our team in Ontario. So their ability to know that localized spot, very hard to scale that.
Yeah.
And we need that localized feel. AI gives us the tool to be able to say, yes, we do. In fact, we know what the weather's like and we can book your listing accordingly.
Right.
There's a lot of power there. And so the ability for me to fulfill a vision that I've had to scale and grow and pour more into our team and really help photographers plug in to get a better life balance. That's a big part of it.
It's outsourcing a huge part or a huge challenge in your business to make it more proficient.
For sure. And we've over the years, we have found what the challenges are for freelance photographers, right? As they grow their business, they end up doing the business things that they don't like. So they just want to shoot all day, but then if they shoot all day, they've got to edit all night. If they are doing that, they become too busy. They need to hire. Now they're managing people.
Right.
There's so many different things that we can help an independent photographer with, where we've actually developed a program called Better Together. And I think it's just a great philosophy for us as a business. So when we talk to a photographer, we can actually say, we don't see you as a competitor. We actually think we're better together. If a client's going to need work and they come to us, we'd love to work with you.
Right.
And if you're full, you got your own gig and your calendar's not available that day, we can't book you.
Right.
But we're that gap filler for them. And so it's just a great way to kind of approach the business. So I see that at scale for us. I think AI powers that.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited, but I'm also cautiously, I'm nervous about where this industry is 3 years from now. I mean, we're only 18 months into really kind of an early adoption of AI. We have this conversation 18 months from now. It's going to be very interesting to see.
I think we will have that conversation in 18 months.
That'd be great.
Scott, I really appreciate you on here. Before we go, we got to do our rapid ask questions. Are you ready for these?
Yeah, bring it on.
Rapid ask question number 1 here, Scott. If you were on death row, what would be your last meal for you?
I'm either going chalet salad with a white quarter chicken dinner.
Wow, classic Canadian.
Or a good burger, Swiss melt, mushrooms.
Okay. Not the Wendy's one.
I'll tell you just a little tip. A good burger is all about the bun, Rob. It's not about the patty.
Brioche. Are we buttering it? What
110%.
Okay.
If you have a shitty bun but a good patty,
you can make up
it's a bad burger. But if you have a mediocre patty and a killer bun,
you don't want that soggy bottom 100%. Bun. That's a nightmare. You've had a great day. You pop the sunroof back. You're in the car. What CD you popping in?
Oh, probably Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell.
Whoa.
Back
Nice.
into Hell, the 1990 version.
You've got the afternoon to yourself. Everything's taken care of. You've got either your sport, your hobby. What are you going out and doing?
Well, probably for a walk, a bike ride, get into water. Anytime I can get by water, just get me down to the water.
Like
a river,
the
river, the lake, the ocean. Yeah, a palm tree,
You've got an opportunity to meet with anybody for dinner, dead or alive. Who's that person you're sitting across from?
David Hasselhoff. Don't ask why.
Come on now. Yeah. We're going to leave it at that with that one. I think we will. Let's wrap it up on that.
All right.
Scott, I appreciate you coming in today. I appreciate everybody watching. And thanks for watching the Robcast.
Thank you.